Well, good afternoon and welcome to this special edition of Honest at Sports Talk. I'm your host, Earl Basden. Joining me is Bermuda Olympian Arantxa King. Arantxa, first of all, season's greetings to you. Um, Last month, there was an announcement that you were going to be, or you have the position of the ethics officer for the CGF. Um, must be kind of exciting for you as being someone that's been in the Olympics, been on the international sports scene, and knowing some of the things that go on. That now your role is there to kind of protect the organization.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I mean, not even just from background in me playing sports, but also in these last couple of years, I was working at a law firm where this is essentially what we did. So with the sports group, and so we worked for regulators, sports governing bodies, helping to establish the rule of sport and also enforce them through arbitration. But I mean, and when I talk about rules, everything from governance to constitutions to anti-doping, corruption across many sports, from some of the most well-known sports to Olympic traditional sports to more newer different sports. So it was a nice transition into this opportunity. So I'm very grateful to that I can lend my skills, hopefully, and yeah, very excited.
A lot of people that just watch sports or just are sports fans wouldn't quite understand this part until someone major gets kind of caught up in it. But it's a reoccurring um, thing that goes on in sports of people looking to try to kind of what I would say beat the system of sorts, um, whether it be ethical or whether it be financial, just different things. But what intrigued you about getting involved in this side of the sport or sports?
Yeah, I mean, it's all part of that. And like we would like to think that a lot of people play by the rules, but just in life in general, there's always the actors who don't, or in some circumstances, it's they're just not aware and they make bad mistakes, or they're influenced. There's a lot of context that goes behind why people make decisions that they do. Ultimately, it affects the integrity of sport, or can affect the integrity of sport. And I think that is what, for better for worse, a lot of those of us who work on the regulator side, in order for, say, track and field to have honest results, we need to know that everyone who lined up that day got there the way they should, in the honest way, and also the people who behind the scenes themselves, are acting appropriately and with integrity and just good behavior overall. So it's all it all goes together. But I think ultimately, if you're a fan of sport, you want to be able to see that what you're watching is true, and there was no other outside influence that might have swayed results.
Mm. Now, going to law school, what was your first um, ambition as becoming a lawyer? Was it this type of law, or were you open to whatever kind of caught your eye once you got involved?
Yeah, I actually didn't know. I knew I wanted to work in sports. I wasn't entirely sure how that was going to happen, or even, believe it or not, going to law school, whether it would be in a legal world, or I would just, take these skills I learned from law school and be able to transfer it elsewhere. And, I had the opportunity to work intern at some amazing sports organizations, the NCAA, the PGA Tour, while I was in law school. And it wasn't ultimately till I found out about this world of sports law, which I say because in a lot of basically I found out about it just being in Europe, because in the States, sports and how it's regulated just operates on a different scale.
Mhm.
And in large part, it's very contractual, a lot of transactionals, and the legal issues are um, can apply to almost any business, because the sports are just very much treated like business. Where the European system of sport, and also very much international, very much, it has a system in which there are just there's different layers of regulation, different layers of sports governing bodies. So everything from the top to the international governing body to might be regional or then to domestic, and then also just the grassroots. And at every level, there are rules that each participant, by way of participating, needs to adapt. So I said all this to say is that I actually didn't know so much about this world of sports and sports law, in the fact that I could be a lawyer and I, could charge an athlete in another country, and like the rules of sport will allow you to enforce that charge even if they're not, in the country that you are, which almost is fascinating from an international and transnational law perspective, because in some cases you can't do that, but in sports you can. So I thought that was just really cool. And then it does affect, it just touches so many interesting issues. Some of them pertain specifically to sport, but then sometimes it's like you mentioned, morals, ethics, just human behavior.
Now, a young Arantxa King was involved in many sports, many, and outstanding in several. Football was one of those ones that really you stood out. But what twisted your arm to lean towards track and field?
Yeah, well, I already knew I was fast as a footballer because I was a striker, just hit me the ball and I was gone. Um, I think it was inevitable having my mother, who was a track athlete, who at the time, or she had just transitioned into being a track coach. So by the time I hit high school, so I think it was about 14, I knew that track season was going to be something I did. And I think as a youth, track can be kind of difficult to persuade young kids to do, just to run. So as much as I love football, I think it was, a blessing that I didn't start track so early, because I didn't feel burnt out or necessarily. And I was really able to just jump into literally my skill and talent and just the interest and the intrigue. But I think one reason why I love track so much is that it's objective. It's just based on time and distance. There's no real politics, maybe in like the larger scheme of things, but as it is, it's just who ran faster, who threw further, and who jumped further. And as an athlete, especially a young girl who, I was doing very well, but may not have had all the competition or all the best training partners at my hand, I was always able to go online that next weekend and look at the descending order list of who around the country, the United States of America, was competing with me. And that was always my competition. And I think that was just like made me always want to be better, because I always knew that I could just like go online and see exactly what I need to do. And I think track is unique in that type of sport where, it just is what it is. You're the best or you're not. And so, yeah, I think that's why I just, one of the many reasons, of course, but why I really gravitated towards that.
So in the sport, you said you were fast. Why long jump then? If you were fast, why not the 100, the 200? Why not those events as opposed to the one you chose that took you to the Olympics?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did do all running in high school. I mean, I was the 400-meter state champ in Massachusetts. I even did the 100, and even in college, I ran the 4x4 often. And I would hate to say it that I probably would have been a very, very good 400-meter runner on an elite standard. I just could not deal with the training for that. I honestly, not even the training. I hated running it. Right. I knew it was good, but I would run it. I mean, this is someone who trained as a short sprinter. When you're a long jumper, you train as a short sprinter. You have to be fast. Some some jumpers are faster than others, but then, it always makes up in some way or another, like maybe because they have a different technique style, or someone's longer, but for the most part, we trained as a sprinter. So I did a lot of sprinting, but it would always be funny that I would be sometimes the last leg on the 4x4, like the long jumper, and would run very well. So I think maybe in another time and another set of lungs, I might have fucked up being a 400-meter runner, but I'm happy I didn't. And yeah, long jump is just, there's a lot of different elements to it. The running, obviously, and then just the technique that it entails and launching yourself in the air, and also the sensation of that, right? And there's nothing that feels better than just a big jump and you know it's going to be great.
Mm.
So yeah, I think the long jump because I wanted to fly. That's what a lot of us say. Yeah.
Arantxa Fly King. Well, back to the CGF, the ethics officer. When you applied for it, what intrigued you the most that you wanted this particular job?
Yeah, and I will say it's more of an appointment position, so it will be kind of ad hoc. So as there's issues arise, I mean,
Mm.
throughout the time I will be dealing with stuff with the as ethics commission, but it's not a full-time employment
Right,
job.
right.
It's more of a an appointment position.
Hmm.
And so the opportunity just actually I think it was the BOA, Bermuda Olympic Association. I think the CGF were looking for people to apply and candidates, and my name was thrown out there by my own federation, which I'm very grateful for. And I was like, yeah, sure, this sounds like things that I'm capable of, and I have ideas, and it just seems something within my skill set. And I think there is a bit of what's the word? Maybe it's harmony, or in the sense that my last major games was the Commonwealth Games before I
Hmm.
kind of just like hung up my shoes. So I don't know, it felt like full circle that I could
Right.
come back and do it in a different way and be a part of the sports, or such a amazing sport federation in a different capacity. So yeah.
Sure, sure. But not only was that news a big one for Bermuda, but you have some other news that is exciting as you'll start a new venture very shortly. And
Yes,
can you give us an update?
yes, absolutely. So I just recently accepted a full-time position with the MLS, so Major League Soccer in the United States. We're working in New York, back in New York from London again. So I guess maybe after all these years, going back to football also was in my destiny, although I do love track forever. But really exciting because the MLS is just, it's the fastest growing league right now.
Mhm.
Every year in the last couple of years, they've expanded a new team into a new city. And I think they're probably going to cap it off next year. But it's so much of what we're seeing in major sports. Whether it's in the Premier League, NFL, NBA,
Mhm.
like those sports, those leagues been around forever, forever. Where the MLS, it has the opportunity to take the learnings from their colleagues, to say, in a sense, but also to take copy and paste and innovate in ways that I think other leagues aren't necessarily able to, because there's so much foundation.
Mhm.
So the MLS is almost like a startup in a sense that like they're doing a lot, and I'm excited to see how football continues to grow in the United States, because it's about time, and it's
Yeah.
here, and with especially World Cup coming. So yeah, really excited, and I'm grateful for the opportunities of working and living in London to have a little taste of really what football life is like, going to Premier League games and
Now
just
you have to remember
like
you have to
taking
call it
that.
soccer when you land.
Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, it's a very exciting opportunity for me, and it was something that I really, um, proud of myself for getting, and also just the hard work to get there. So yeah.
Well, the good thing is that the Bermuda Football Association have a close contact, especially with the officials, with the MLS, as the head of refereeing for the MLS has done some seminars for the referees in Bermuda. So that kind of relationship building, just broadens both sets of groups. I know the MLS is looking for more officials as well, and the opportunity for probably some Bermuda officials to go and take part, or even just evaluate and look at how things are run there that can improve the game in Bermuda. But I want to wish you well in that endeavor. I mean, that's a big step. Um, in a sport you love, you love it, but as you said, uh, track and field forever.
Yes, always, always. It's the original sport. You can't do anything really without us. Well,
Right.
if you want
Well,
to talk
that's true,
about
and
us,
and
right?
often
Yeah.
people don't get that message of every sport has track and field in it.
Yes,
You
yeah.
know, so the training aspect is pretty much the same. Um, if you could do it in track, you could do it somewhere else. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And I will say, like, coming from even in college when we would have the football players come out sometimes for a spring track, whatever. I think at the end of the day, no one it takes a lot to be a person who wants to run around for fun,
right.
but it's just that reward of competition. Because I'll tell people like training for track is it's not like I remember when I would go to football practice, soccer practice. I'm like, oh yeah, this is fun. Blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
Every day it was like anxiety and scared of like how bad we were gonna die today. Um, but it's that bond you create of just like fear, I think maybe, but then also the reward of that individual effort and that individual success that of course is happens by a village of people, but yeah, it's just very special.
Sure, sure. Well, I want to end by saying season's greetings, all the best, and we look forward to you in your new role with the MLS starting very shortly.
Yes, yes, and also with the CDF. So
All
yeah,
right.
a lot of good
En-
stuff. But thank you very much, and season
Thank
greetings to you as
you.
well.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right,
Happy
bye.
holidays.
You too.
Bye.